everybody, welcome back to another episode of ATL On Fire. I am joined by Dave Katz. How are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you, Mikey Dobbs?
I am doing great, and we appreciate everybody tuning in to another ATL On Fire episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, tell some friends, and also follow us on Twitter at ATL On Fire. And on the podcast catchers, Dave, we're pretty much everywhere. You listen to us on what's your preference?
I like the Apple.
You're an Apple person. I'm a Google person. But if you're a Spotify person, we're there. Pretty much everywhere. Podbean, or just go to www.atlonfire.com and you'll find.
Although one of our podcast supporters pointed out that the description, which we did not write, people, on the Apple podcast is kind of irreverent, right? I mean, somebody wrote that.
Which one? What is it? What's it state?
It's something about two guys and they kind of know stuff, and I don't know. It's pretty funny.
I think I did write that.
You did?
Lack of knowledge meets the soccer pitch. That was me. Well, okay. I was toasted at the last soccer game a bit.
Right.
So
I do want to point out, dear podcast listeners, that we are introducing a new element. We just twittered out, right, that we are taking live calls, although the podcast, of course, is recorded, but the calls will be live, and you can be on the podcast. So obviously, when you're listening to this, the phone number for the next podcast is 470-387-1982.
1982.
One more time, 470-387-1982. And we will tweet when we are going to record so that you can call in and be on the show.
Love that. And Dave, we got lots to talk about, even though we've only got one game to recap. We had a lot going on, but before we get into all the things that we want to talk about, you were nice enough to bring us another lovely red wine. Carmen, what do you think of the wine so far?
Fantastic, as always.
Dave, what do we got here?
We got Oberon from Napa Valley. It's a classic Cabernet. It's from the Mondavi family of vineyards. I think they just bought Oberon years ago, but it's a very, very nice California Cabernet.
And Mondavi is kind of responsible for the rebirth of wine in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, right?
It played a huge part of it. It's huge. Yeah. It's a huge winery. And they're kind of our competitors, Mikey Dobbs, because our winery is located on Oberon Walk. That's the name of the road. And so we were thinking about Oberon as a title, and we realized there's already a fantastic Oberon. So, we're going to have to, compete with those boys.
Yeah.
Or those gals, or whoever runs the Oberon winery.
What do you think of it? Have you had this before?
Yes, it's unfortunately terrific.
It is. Well, as we get into the recap, let's talk about the sad news, which, as you and I were at the game together on Saturday, it was a 6 o'clock kickoff roughly.
Yep.
At the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Beautiful afternoon, and here in Atlanta, we face Chicago Fire. At some point, I forget what minute, our one of our very best players, Miles Robinson, who just turned 25, I think, like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Ruptured or tore his Achilles tendon. Achilles.
It's the same thing, I think.
Yeah,
really.
Same thing, right?
Either way, it's bad news.
Bad news. Really sad for that. He didn't have any contact, right? He just went down, right?
No contact whatsoever. He kind of was going forward, and then he tried to step back to adjust to a ball in the air that he was going to head down. And
so what in the world is in the water at Atlanta United right now, Dave?
Well, I'm glad you said in the water, because there is a lot of stuff going on in the Twitterverse about how it's Mercedes-Benz and it's a turf and soccer should never be played on turf. Okay, so I think the cry for a solution or for a cause of what's going on is being driven by the fact that both of our goalkeepers tore their Achilles, our center back tore his Achilles, and then everybody always, of course, has this memory of Joseph Martinez tearing his ACL. However,
That happened in
Joseph
Nashville.
Martinez did it in Nashville. The backup goalkeeper did it in training on grass, right? And so there's only 2 of those that actually occurred on the turf.
Okay, but you know what I have in my pocket, Dave?
What you got?
ATL on fire trivia.
No.
Yeah. Boom shakalaka. That's right, and you might want to.
You do know that that's my Achilles heel.
Oh,
we got to stop with the Achilles heel show.
yeah.
Carmen claims that I jinxed the
if
team.
there is
Did I
another
jinx
one-
the team, Mikey Dobbs?
If there's another one, I'm definitely claiming.
Oh God,
jinx.
I take it back.
Because Dave, 3 players on Atlanta United have ruptured their Achilles thus far in 2022. How many other players in the MLS have suffered a ruptured Achilles this season?
0.
That is correct. Nailed it. But Anton Tinnerholm for the Philadelphia Union did rupture his back in October
Okay.
of 2021.
So it does happen.
It does happen.
You know, we talked about it, and it's not an injury you see very much. I've heard some football players doing it, but I haven't really heard too many soccer players.
Yeah, and I will say, though, after this, we'll have a little more knowledge here. What position in soccer, and this is from a study on MLS players through the years of 1996 and 2016, of 22 players who had Achilles injuries. What position suffers the most Achilles tears? And the positions are forward, midfield, defense, or goalkeeper.
I'm gonna go with forward.
Defense, 50%.
Wow.
11 of the 22 during that time period were defense. And they actually say defenders. Hold on, it says this may be explained by the constant plantar flexion and eccentric contraction required by defenders who are backpedaling.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, the backpedaling.
The backpedaling. But the thing is, neither of our players who got injured were backpedaling.
No,
I guess
but
Robinson was kind of going back a little bit. Guzan was just going forward, right?
I think they would mean over time, right?
Oh,
like you're flexing that tendon, which on Twitter I mistakenly called a muscle in one of my tweets. You can't edit a tweet, which is so frustrating when you send something out there in the Twitter sphere at 11 o'clock. And I said muscle memory, and it is in fact not a muscle; it's a tendon. But the recovery time might be getting better over time. So a Chelsea player, Hudson Odoi, went down in April of 2019, April 22nd, 2019.
Okay.
How quickly did he return?
Well, if you're saying it's getting quicker, I would have said the average time has got to be at least 6 months.
Average time is like between 9 and 12 months, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. So maybe 6 months.
It's roughly that. I think it was 5 months.
Okay.
You can do the math here, but he returned to the field in September 28th, playing 27 minutes against Brighton, and he would be named to Chelsea's starting lineup the following weekend.
Wow. Okay.
So I think that's 5 months.
That still puts, Miles Robinson only on a miracle for the World Cup.
Miracle. And, look.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not. Because even if he's a miracle, like Greg Berhalter's got to make decisions by
Right. You don't want to take a guy to the World Cup, if he's come back and played 0 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then my ATL on fire research got really dicey because you guys were pulling in the driveway. So I was trying to figure this out before I printed it. But this England player missed the 2010 World Cup after suffering an Achilles tear while playing at AC Milan. Missed the 2010 World Cup.
England player, 2010, AC Milan. Who in England has played for AC Milan?
And it's a bit of a trick question because I'm curious whether he was actually a consideration for the team at that point. I feel like, he was probably outside of the fringe of being.
I don't remember anybody English playing for AC Milan during that era. I have no idea.
It is David Beckham on loan from LA Galaxy.
Okay. Well, that's.
So then he was 34 and made.
Did he actually play any games for Milan?
I guess
Maybe.
he did, yeah.
Okay.
Because they said he played another 3 years after that and finished his career at Paris Saint-Germain,
Okay.
which I don't remember.
Yeah, I
Probably.
I did know that he went back to Europe, surprisingly, but
What percentage of Achilles tears in the U.S. are from soccer? More or less than 5%?
I'm gonna go with more.
Less, 2%.
No idea.
How do you do there, Carmen? Was that like
Awful.
That was like 1 out of.
one out of five? One
See,
out of
what
five.
what I was trying to do is get our Achilles karma back to grounded, so it won't happen anymore. I did wear my Roy Kent jersey to the game because I was a little bit tired of us losing in my Atlanta United jersey, and
Yeah.
booyah, people.
I wore my undefeated socks.
Between those two, I think Mikey Dobbs and I deserve all the credit for the win.
I took a Twitter poll, and 95% of the people said I should wear my undefeated socks because I wanted to know, like, should I save them for like a more meaningful match?
No, we needed a win.
We did need a win. We did need a win. We got a win.
Good
So,
use of the socks, Mikey Dobbs.
is that a good transition into the Chicago Fire game? And
It's as good as any.
my overall opinion of the game was obviously excited for a pretty commanding win at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
As you and I discussed, I felt like Chicago was just a really poor team.
They are a poor team.
And that made as much of a difference, in my opinion, as us playing well, which the players may have had some good moments. And I thought the players, many of them had good games. But as you and I talked about, the system is still flawed, and we'll get into that. Overall, Chicago really did not have a lot of clear-cut chances. Outside of the one they scored, which we're going to go to the highlights and talk about in a minute, the shots that I looked at and when I went back to video were all pretty long-range shots from, probably 20, 25 yards outside the box, where, Bobby Shuttleworth should have been able to make a good save. Neither one were on the frame. And so it didn't feel like Chicago ever really was threatening us at all in that game. But, there's some things missing still. That
One thing I want to say about Chicago is that for some reason they have had an obsession with Eastern European players, right? I mean, Shaqiri is just the latest version of this. We have all these players coming from Europe. So whereas the rest of MLS has really, really embraced South America, Mexican players, young, American players, they have continued to import European players. And I think one of the flaws in that strategy is if you're a good European player and you have a European passport, you have a ton of options of places to play, right? So I feel like they continue to get players who have run out a little bit of options, right? They're not really getting on the upswing.
Yeah. And there's, I think there's definitely been a shift in that. I think another team that people are tweeting about is LA Galaxy hasn't really changed their formula from going after kind of your older superstars. Right. They got Zlatan, which
Chicharito,
Beckham. The list goes on, right? And
Robbie Keane,
exactly. But you can't say Zlatan was over the hill. I mean, he was by far the best player in the MLS, so you can't really knock that signing.
Yeah, and Beckham was terrific for them too.
Yeah, and Chicharito
and Robbie Keane. So yeah. I mean,
okay. I would take all of those on my team at any time.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a party at the podcast.
Producer foul. Sorry.
Okay. What kind of show we running around here?
My bad.
I always forget to mute my phone, and I'm probably going to have a call here in a minute myself. So
I thought that might have been our first caller. I was all excited.
I was too.
I'm sorry. I'm such a tease.
No. Okay.
No, Dave. Any other general thoughts on the game in terms of other than being happy that we got a decisive win?
Well, I think as we go through the highlights and the end, maybe we'll come back to it. I think it's a false dawn, Mikey Dobbs, because I don't think we really changed much of anything. I think it was more a product of, we dominated the game. We won 4-1. Awesome, right? But I think that's a little bit more of a product of being at home and playing a lousy Chicago team than it is most of what we've done. I do say that, and I've given credit to Pineda to this all the time. I think the team continues to play better in the system that he has. I think, he continues to tweak and get them to play a little bit better. I just think the system is totally wrong.
Yeah. And you and I talked about it. We'll get into it. Do you want to just go right into the highlights and
Let's do it.
Go at it? So, Carmen, if we want to jump to the first goal, which was ours, which started off as a great goal 2 minutes into the game. Some nice play in the middle here. A quick little triangle. Araujo slots. Ronaldo bangs it, goes off the goalkeeper's hands and off the crossbar into the top left corner. Some nice little interchange play there. I felt like the guy that Araujo passes it by here didn't do a great job defending right here on this pass. That's pretty atrocious defending. But Ronaldo, Cisneros, great job. Bangs it, puts a lot of power on it. The palm of the keeper's not strong enough. And
I think one of the things that we've been talking about is that if we are going to be a successful team and we're going to score goals, they need to come more through the middle, through Almada, Araujo, etc. And this is a textbook example. If you give those guys interchange and in free flow, one of the things about that goal is it came a little bit in transition. We were a little bit more direct in getting those players at the ball a little bit quicker, and so they had a little bit more space. And if you get those guys in front of the defenders with a little bit of space, they're going to score goals. They're quality.
Yeah. So then, wasn't too long after that, again off of a set piece, Dave, if we want to go to the highlights here, coming off of a corner kick. And what minute is this? This is roughly 10 minutes. 10 minutes in. They take corner. Shaqiri takes it, gets bounced out to the, almost back to midfield.
Pause it right there.
Right there.
Oop.
Go back?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
can we go back slightly? Because I think.
Yeah. There it is.
And we're coming out of the back. Go back a little bit more.
So for the people listening, there's a corner kick just taken, basically
right there. Just leave it there.
Put back out, probably out to the 40-yard line.
Yeah, so one of the things, again, I want to talk about is that, so in this case, the zone works, quote unquote works, because we win the ball, right? But as you will see in the zone, and in fairness, this could happen in a man-to-man system too, the moment that ball is, this time it's cleared, a lot of times it's not cleared, it's a secondary ball. There's nobody responsible for anything. So even, most of the time in a man-to-man system, you say, all right, the guy's out in front, you got to get out and try to counter. But there's a couple of guys, particularly if the defenders are not going forward, you got to have some accountability and make sure that if we turn the ball right over, that the most dangerous players are marked. And one of the things you'll see about this, because it's zone, you can't do that. Nobody knows who's supposed to go where. And if you play it now, as they're coming out of the box, you can see nobody knows who to mark anybody.
And who's marking the best player
now
on their team?
Now freeze it again.
Who's marking the best player on their team after he gets cycled out?
Nobody.
And where is he? He's almost in the 18 already by the time he gets it out wide.
Yeah.
Shaqiri's got it, right?
We've talked about this time and time again, right? You can't really quite see this. And Shaqiri was, in fairness, the guy who took the corner, so maybe you say a little bit. But Lennon, again, is pinched in, and where we froze it just a second ago, he's basically holding hands with the center back. And so when they play it back out to Shaqiri out wide, he has 20 yards to go.
And one thing I want you to see on this is watch Gutman and I think it's Ibarra who are basically have the guy marked up who scores it. Mm-hmm. Really weak. Bad defending on their part because they have it covered at this point. They have their guy, and they just didn't go to the ball with enough conviction.
Yep.
Period. Now, Should Shaqiri have this much time to cross the ball? No, but we're in relatively good shape, all things considered.
Well, I would say you're in danger. Anytime you have a guy that talented, that open to pick out a player.
Yeah, trouble.
It's trouble.
It's trouble. No, but in all things considered, a cross coming through, we at least have guys back and relatively marking people. And particularly the guy who scores it has two people on him. They both get out muscled here. It's kind of crazy. Watch it. Let's see it.
Here is Shaqiri once more.
Punches through.
It's an equalizer.
Punches through.
The Nigerian from close
So,
range pounces.
not a very good
and the away team have an equalizer.
way to kind of.
And again, it's the same concept when you're trying to defend this. If you're a young defender out there, you got to get your body in between where the ball is and where he wants to go, right? You got to, basically you can't give him a free run. And there he gets in between the two guys. I would argue, maybe they didn't do a good job, but also maybe they didn't know which one of them was supposed to body him up.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
either way, it's
either way they've got to get to that ball first.
I agree. I totally agree.
And then I don't know if we want to do all the highlights here, but in the 22nd minute here, Araujo played a beautiful ball, powered over to Gutman, just kind of line drive across, and here it is here. Gutman does a beautiful job of getting his head on it, puts quality contact on it, far post. Keeper makes a great save down into the far post. So
see, he can finish.
he can do a job of getting up for a header, but yeah, that's a little unlucky.
Right, ball by Araujo. But one thing you'll notice on that play is Araujo is out not as an inverted winger, and it's on his dangerous left foot, right?
And look how perfect that ball was.
It's a stunning ball.
So let's jump to the second goal, which was in the 26th minute. This is where I felt like Ibarra had a pretty solid game. This was a great kind of defensive pressure move that he kind of got up and won the ball, and we cycled it back in.
Before you play this, this is something I want to show the listeners, right? So this is, you could show this, you could highlight this 16 times every half. So our outside backs are going so far forward, so fast, that they end up standing in a line. And you can see it right now. So Lennon and Gutman are absolutely at an equal line with Cisneros. It's got to be presumably Almada and probably Araujo. There's a direct line.
It's almost five up front, right?
It's five. It's not just five up front. It's five in a freaking line.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have five in a line and they're equal with the back four of Chicago, which is what's here, right? The problem with this is a little further up the field, but this happens to us at all stages in the field, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with this setup, as I'll talk about maybe even more later, is that if you're trying to play those guys, they have no running start, right? In fact, you'll see right on this clip, right? Where is Lennon facing on this clip?
He's facing the ball, right?
But he's facing back towards our own goal.
And the other thing that I'll point out to your point here, Dave, is Ibarra makes a great 1v1 move to win this ball, but it was damn close to not happening.
Yeah.
And where would the other, look how many Chicago Fires would have been on the breakaway.
Right. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the midfield. We only have 3 because our outside backs are so far up the field. Now, our outside backs being up the field mean we have 5 across the front. They also have 5 defending across the back, so it's 1-on-1. But again, when Lennon is facing our own goal, even though he's wide open right at this moment in the clip, so we're about to win possession and try to play, he's absolutely wide open. But if you try to play to him, he has to turn around, face going forward, and then get going from a dead stop. And it's also true of Gutman's facing our own goal too. So both of those players, right, they have to turn and go up the field to try to get behind somebody. And they're just not fast enough to do that, right? The only chance they have to really threaten the outside backs is if they're moving on the run. We play it in the run, and now those guys are fast enough to do that.
Now, to your point, if this did end up getting picked up and Ibarra didn't make the tackle, imagine if Lennon and Gutman were actually back a bit. But let's run the tape.
Look how deep Chicago are now.
So-
It's up to Atlanta to break them down as Araushu.
Try to go up the middle, gets picked off. Chicago's coming back, but Ibarra does a great job of stepping in.
Ibarra in midfield. Osetu. Moreno.
And again, is Gutman needed there? No, he's not out wide.
Still there. Goal!
And then Ronaldo, who I hope we keep saying Ronaldo. That would be kind
You
of
like
fun.
Ronaldo more than Cisneros?
I do. I think I'm going to go with Ronaldo.
He's our Ronaldo.
Cisneros, because it's Cisneros. But yeah, neither. Gutman wasn't needed there to be wide. So much rather have him sitting back in case they had actually gotten by Ibarra there.
And once again, what we've been saying holds true, right? When they're running and playing Moreno and give and go in those spaces going through the middle is really dangerous.
So again, not the prettiest goal, but Ronaldo was there to pick up the trash, good positioning, good poaching. Haven't seen that from a secondary striker on Atlanta United in a long time. Maybe never.
Never.
I think we're seeing it now.
It's one game, but
we're seeing it now from Brandon Vasquez, who plays for a different team now.
Yeah.
But he
doesn't play for us anymore,
Yeah.
Mikey Dowds.
He doesn't. But, I think he was still probably the best number 2 behind Joseph. So, if Joseph comes back in the next couple of weeks, I don't think we're too urgent on needing like a Matthew Hoppe or something like that. But do you think we're positioning for the Matthew Hoppe thing or something different now?
I still think so. So first of all, the window closed temporarily, and it won't open up again until sometime in the summer. So right now, you can't sign any players in the MLS. I think.
I don't think we've got enough TAM or GAM or spam to do it anyway.
Well, that's your territory. We don't know about those things, but we did get some either TAM or GAM for selling Mulroney.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some
only 100 for this year though. So it's 200 in GAM over.
There's deferred TAM and GAM.
I guess over the next 2-3 years. The next 2 years is.
I can't wait. It's like Christmas morning. Give us the TAM and GAM.
200K in GAM and 75K in bonuses.
Darn you, Mikey Dawes, withholding the TAM and
I
GAM.
don't even know what that means. Do you think this whole math does it really matter? Because it is just money, right? But it helps the league stay
If
healthy.
MLS headquarters, God forbid, has a fire or something, then that spreadsheet goes down. Then that's
Look out.
it. Nobody will ever know.
Maybe that's
it's all monopoly money.
their plan. Maybe Don Garber, that's in his master plan. Like when it reaches a certain point where we can rip the Band-Aid, no more designated players. This league's ready to go. We got 35 teams. Whoo!
Can we hear a boom
Promotion
shakalaka?
and relegation are still involved.
Good call, Cat.
Yeah. And now we
Mikey
are
Dawes
on to
feeling it.
why don't we jump to this next kind of almost goal from Lennon? I think there's out wide to Lennon. He gets a nice cross in. A pretty close chance for us to score another goal here. I think it's Ronaldo yet again, who at least puts it on frame, makes the keeper do something on this play here. So it gets played really nicely out to Lennon. Lennon actually puts in a really nice cross. Keeper has to make a save on it. Kind of bounces to Cisneros, and keeper has to get a palm on it.
But, once again, we've had so many times where Lennon is in that spot, and he delivers a quality cross almost every time, and we haven't scored. We really just haven't scored. Now, maybe it'll start happening, but maybe Ronaldo will start to feel that and to get the timing with Gutman and Lennon. But up until now, that is open as he was and as fine a delivery as he gives, that has not led to goals.
Yeah. We don't have to go to the next highlight. I think we can just talk about it. It was a really nice cross, I think, from a set piece where Alex DeJean gets a really solid header on it. Should have put it on frame and didn't. But then not too long after that, in the 36th minute, we get our third goal from Ronaldo, which I think was his best. Boy, this was not going out wide to the flanks, Dave. This was about as direct of a goal as you will see, starting from the back with Bobby Shuttleworth, who does a nice job of playing it to Ibarra's feet. Ibarra looks up, Dave, and makes a very good pass, but also a very dangerous pass if he doesn't get it right.
Okay.
Could have been disastrous if he got the pass wrong, but boy, beautiful pass straight up the gut to midfield to Almada, who, of course, does what he does. He turns it and slots our striker, Ronaldo, right up the gut to the top of the 18, and he puts it on the goalkeeper with a little bit of pause. It goes out right. So this is it.
This is what we've been asking for, direct verticality. The only thing is, and you point out if it gets intercepted, right?
Yeah, but look at this. Look at this little slowdown. It goes out, and then that's not as easy as it looks. You can look real silly doing that.
That's class, right? Because most players would have shot it and given the goalkeeper a chance. He didn't give him a chance.
Because, that's a tough position to be in. Also, Dave, as a striker, he didn't have an angle on the goal. He's right, like, in the center, And sometimes that's really difficult as a striker because you don't have a perfect angle. Goalkeeper's out pretty far, so you do have to make some sort of move like that, which often you see in these highlights get nabbed up by the keeper, or they're too slow on that, and it ends up,
But you love to see them playing vertical. You love to see that outlet pass. It's brilliant, and you can afford to do that if you're Atlanta United. You would think, because every once in a while that's going to get picked off. But we had the center backs to deal with it. But again, in that clip, you'll notice that we don't have the center backs to deal with it. Gutman's already 40 yards up the field. So if that ball gets intercepted, we're in deep trouble. Yeah. And there's no reason. So Gutman on that play ran the entire thing. He ends up in the 6-yard box as Ronaldo is scoring. What did he do that for? Nothing.
Yeah. But man, that was a beautiful long pass by Ibarra.
Oh, it's just dream.
And like, this shows like just how Almada can be that transition kind of pivot person in the center, because as soon as he gets it, what's he doing? He's not trying to do the Miggy go a million miles an hour. He looks up and just puts the perfect touch on the ball. And whether that's Ronaldo or Joseph, I think we're going to score a lot of goals if we can do more of that.
So I'm thinking, Ibarra has so stepped up his game that when Sosa comes back, how do you feel about playing those two together and letting everybody else go in front of them?
Well, look, if that works, or
as opposed to Josetu, for example.
I don't know, man. I like Josetu too. I feel like he's coming into his own as well.
Mm-hmm. One thing we had said before that is maybe Josetu is a little better attacking player, and then on the road you play Ibarra with a slightly more defensive slant to it, and you could do that. You could vary it.
And as sad as we are about Miles Robinson, oh man, I'm just feeling for him for like the World Cup. Just missing that. Like, that has to be eating at him, and wishing him the best. Hopefully he can pull the miracle off and at least be playing with Atlanta United a couple games as we head into the playoffs. So let's cross our fingers for that. But what do you think?
So is it
what do you think we're going to do in the back line with him out? What's your back four?
George Campbell.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Dejan, played pretty well, and Campbell right now has a groin injury supposedly. So I was surprised. We didn't really hear about that very much. Although I did see him the previous game, towards the end of the game, you could clearly see he was favoring it.
Yeah.
And those groins do take, when you tweak them even if you don't pull it necessarily, but if you tweak it, it takes a while to come back. So I'm going to guess you still got another, at least a couple of games before Campbell is even available. So you have Alex Dejan as a possibility. Or the other possibility is Ronald Hernandez in the center back, which I think he could probably do.
Agreed. Yeah. So we've got options. We can't afford another big injury. So no more dad jokes.
Okay. Done. Done.
So I think it's in the second half. If we jump to Almada, who's driving right up the center yet again. So I think this is another good example of just the class that Almada has. Boy, he didn't miss by much. He just nukes the ball and just misses the top right corner from the top of the 18. And you watch that in slow motion, and it's really pretty close to the upper 90. At first, I thought he floated it way too high, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, Atlanta United getting out in the run in space, they're a much, much better team when they do that. So obviously Pineda's been working hard and trying to get them to speed it up. I mean, he's talked in the post-game press conferences about, limiting the dribbling and trying to get it a little bit more vertical and quick out of the back. So that's obviously working.
Yeah. And then, we don't have to go to the highlights, but in the 74th minute and the 84th minute, there was two more slight chances from Chicago. Mueller, who's the young kid that used to play for Orlando, dribbles into the box, fakes like he got a foul, dives, and actually gets a yellow card.
Okay.
And then there's another chance for a header, and Shuttleworth pretty easily saves it. It was, going into the bottom corner, but gets down and gets to it. And then we get our fourth goal with Brooks Lennon, I think towards it's like the 90th minute, and we can take a look at that.
Low delivery forces Narrows, falls kindly.
Yeah, cleans it up.
It's Brooks Lennon, and with that, it's 3 points.
And I can't remember the build up to that one.
I think they'll probably show it on the
Yeah. But yeah, was there to finish it. So
play out wide, Brooks Lennon overlapping, but it was actually.
Oh yeah, Ronaldo kind of gets in there to challenge it. Chicago does a terrible job of clearing it, but that's where the big body of Ronaldo is able to create a little confusion.
So who was the one who crossed it? It was Hyndman. Emerson Hyndman.
Yeah.
So again, but it's through the middle, right? I mean, one thing you'll say about all 4 goals through the middle, Mikey Dowds, right? So this is what we've been talking about. If we're going to be a quality team, it needs to be Moreno, Araujo, Almada through the middle. That's where our talent is. And, lo and behold, if you get the balls to those guys quickly, as we said, I mean, I think the exact words we said in the previous podcast, you get it out to those guys quickly in front of the back 4 and they'll score.
And yeah, wouldn't we like to see Gutman and Lennon sit back more?
Right. So
hold on. What did I start in the game? Suck them in, and then go forward.
Yes.
I
think your reference is you don't know suck, which is why we suck. So they're not sucking them in and going forward, right? I think that your quote is about basically how they're just bombing forward too early, and then because they're not sucking anybody out, there's no space to go into. And I'm going to talk about that now.
Yeah, I do.
If we're okay with it.
So as you and I talked about during the game. Happy with the result, but there's some things that are worrisome about the system. Even to your point, Pineda is getting them to play the system better, but go ahead. I won't step on your toes.
Yeah, I think people might easily say about this game that we've turned the corner and now we're doing whatever. And I think there's still a flaw in the system, right? So I'm going to take us back a little bit through the history of formations in soccer, right? So, once upon a time, basically in early days of soccer, of modern soccer, right? We're talking about 70s and whatever. Everybody played with 3 forwards, right? Everybody did. It was 3 forwards on the front line, right? And lo and behold, what somebody or teams realized over time is they dropped one of the forwards and played with only 2 forwards. And the classic formation that we all grew up with was 4-4-2, right? And the reason for that was not because people didn't want to score goals, right? The reason for that is when you played only 2 up front and you moved a guy back, then there was more of a dynamic. You had place to run into. You had nobody knows exactly who's coming. You don't have an offside trap to worry about. And, sure enough, the evolution of it went quickly from a 4-4-2 to a 4-5-1. Now there's only 1 player up front, so it's even more confusing and dynamic, right? Yeah. So the history of soccer is playing with less forwards so you can have more players dynamically going forward, right? That's what the formations were doing. Okay. Eventually, you got to the point where not only you only had 1 forward, but you had outside backs bombing down the sides, right? So now you don't know who's coming from the midfield, and you have the 2 outside guys bombing forward, right? So now it's even more dynamic. Okay. And this is sort of where we lead off in the modern era. So all of these coaches say, look, this is what I want, right? We're going to play only 1 forward. We're going to have 4-5-1, and we're going to have those guys bombing up the sides. The problem is, Okay, the way we're playing it, those guys bomb so far up the front, and I want to go back to that moment where I showed you on the clip. We end up with 5 guys standing right across. Is that dynamic?
Gutman, Moreno, Ronaldo, Araujo, and Lennon pretty much all within a 10-yard kind of width as a straight line all the way across.
Straight line, straight across the field, right? And so I think what Pineda, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but what he might argue is those guys are sucking out the defenders and opening it up. But it's not really happening because they're not going all the way out there. I think they should be further out there. But anyway, they're not really getting sucked out that much. But the problem I have, a guy like Bello maybe is fast enough, quick enough, where if you put him down the wing from that position, he can go from a complete stop to beating the guy for pace.
Right.
Gutman can't do it.
No.
Lennon can't do it. The only way they're ever going to put pressure on those outside backs is if they're running into it. Okay? So it doesn't help them. In fact, it's worsening them, right? Because they're standing up there, right? And there's no dynamic anymore. They can't get behind those guys as much because they're standing there, right? And they just don't have the pace to just turn from a standing and go to there. So if they drop, right? When some people might say, well, why are you so against the outside backs going forward? I'm not against the outside guys going forward. In fact, I think the outside guys should bomb forward, but they need to take their moments, right? So in those moments that we saw, like Brooks Lennon was wide open on that one and he got a cross off. If he had been 20 yards further back and was moving slowly towards it, if we turn off the ball, he's fine. He's already back.
Right.
And if we break into space, now he commits, right? And he's running at it and really making it dangerous. And on top of that, it's only one of the two. So if he commits...
That's right. He's on fire.
If he commits, then Gutman is back.
Yeah. No, and it's a double insurance policy, right? Because now you're hedging a little bit towards having the 10 yards to get back to defend.
Right.
If it doesn't go well, and if you're slowly moving forward, it's like kind of you pull up to the light, and you don't quite go all the way up to the line.
That's called timing the light.
Timing the
And
light.
that's illegal. But
Is it?
yeah.
Is it really, Dave?
Yeah, I think it is.
Has anyone ever gotten a ticket for that?
I don't know.
That would be a real.
But that's the perfect thing. If you want to get ahead, right? So if you know that in the next intersection you have to make a left turn and you're in the right-hand lane, you time the light. Instead of going all the way up to the line, you slow down a little bit. And so as soon as it turns green, you go forward. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you're taking that moment, seeing it, and then attacking the space.
That's not against the law, Dave. That's just called good common sense.
Well, in football in particular, it's called good common sense because you have killed the dynamic of Gutman and Lennon by having them all be in a freaking line. Because once you're in a line with their back four, if you take off early, you're offsides. Right? If you're up there and we don't play it to you immediately, then you have to come back towards our own goal. And even if none of those things happen, you don't run offsides, you don't have to come back to your goal, you still have to go from a dead standing stop to getting behind him. No outside back is going to be worried about Lennon or Gutman from a dead standing back. They're going to be like, I can get there.
Yeah. That is Dave Katz on fire. And
Can I press it again? Just
Sure.
for fun of it.
He's heating up. He's on fire.
And Dave, that is Atlanta versus Chicago Fire. But
So it's trendy, right? All the coaches are doing it, right? And it's trendy, but you have to look at the system, right? And you have to say, do we have the players that makes sense? And as we've talked about over the last few weeks, you end up a lot with the guys who are open are Gutman and Lennon, but they're not really threatening to go around the backside because they're not pacey enough. They're not timing it. And it's not really the guys you want on the ball. You'd much rather, as this game illustrates, you'd much rather have Moreno, Amado, Araujo on the ball. They're the ones who get the killer passes and we score.
Certainly Ronaldo. Yeah. Which I did say in the last couple of podcasts, he's got good movement. He's got some upside, and I don't think he's going to be scoring hat tricks every 45 minutes in the first half, which that's pretty stunning too. The kid's, 21 years old, gets a hat trick in the first 45 minutes of a game.
Do you know, here's reverse trivia for you.
Hit me.
What was the only other season that Atlanta United player scored a hat trick?
Ooh. Well, I thought Joseph Martinez has had a couple hat tricks.
I think it's only in one season. Is that true? I thought maybe I misread, but that's what I thought I saw.
Carmen's gonna have to look this up for this after this, but I think Joseph Martinez has had like 4 or 5 hat tricks.
What I read, I thought was that the only season that Atlanta United had a hat trick was the title-winning season, 2018.
Okay, that would have been my guess, by the way. Either that
Went on to win the title, but there might be some caveat to that. There's always some caveat.
I would have wavered.
Somebody got a hat trick, but it's not. Whatever. I don't know.
I would have wavered between 2017 and 18, but it just felt like, I mean, he had so many goals in that 2008. It was a 35, 36, all competitions.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So,
Huge haul.
I think he had a couple hat tricks that season, Dave. I think he might be. You need to check your facts here, and Carmen's going to do it for us.
I didn't say he didn't have multiple hat tricks, but the only other season that the team had a hat trick, what I thought was 2018 when we won the title.
Okay.
So he might have had multiple hat tricks in that season, I think.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, maybe that is true because he did have a ridiculous amount of goals.
So if he had one March 2017.
Does that count?
Is that in that season?
Yeah, I think that's in the season because that finished in. Is that true? No, because that would still be 2017. The season that season finishes in the fall.
So what she's saying is before 2018,
right.
which
I'm full of it. I read that.
Moreover,
I think I saw it on Twitter.
Moreover, what you're saying is he didn't have a hat trick after the championship year.
Maybe.
I think that's what you're saying.
You're saying something on Twitter is not true?
Never, always true.
Oh, okay.
I just wish I could edit what I put on Twitter.
Now that Elon Musk is in charge, nobody cares about the truth at all. Okay.
Don't even start me, Dave. Don't even start me. Elon's going to set it straight on Twitter. All right.
Can we talk about the NWSL Challenge Cup?
Hit it.
So, first of all, congratulations to the NWSL. It's 10 seasons, right? Which the women's leagues have not. I mean, the early men's leagues, God bless them, were terrible and folded quickly too.
Yeah.
The early women's league, terrible and folded early. The NWSL has survived, and in fact, this year for the first time has expanded. So there's 2 new franchises. Do you know who they are?
I do not.
Okay, we got San Diego and LA.
Okay.
Yes.
So the California Sunshine State.
That's right.
What is the Super League? Am I getting that correct?
I don't know what the Super League is, but this is the Challenge Cup.
Okay.
So during the COVID-19 year, they didn't have a full season. Instead, they put all the players in a bubble and they had a tournament, and that's all they had, right? That was called the Challenge Cup. They decided to keep the Challenge Cup and have it as an early preseason tournament, which is actually interesting. It's a little bit vaguely reminiscent of the Mexican League, where they have that middle of the season tournament, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the North Carolina Courage, which is our team, of course, the local team, because, Arthur has yet to buy an Atlanta team.
Why do you think that is? Why isn't he?
He has said that he wants one, but I don't know what he's waiting for.
Yeah, I don't know.
We certainly have the market for it,
right.
Uncle Arthur. If you're listening, we would like a women's team as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that hasn't happened. What was the team that we had here for a while? Carmen, come on.
Oh gosh, I should know this because Sydney LaRue was drafted and it folded.
I know. I had friends that work for the team. We're dropping the ball here. Sorry, listeners.
Looking it up now.
So now you get someone not from Atlanta. But anyway, so they've continued the Challenge Cup. The Courage, who looked like they just fell apart last year, right, after the dreaded coaching change, just totally fell apart. And, they look like they sold in the offseason their 2 best players, right? They sold Mewis and they sold Lynn Williams. Right, both went to Kansas City. Anyway, so we don't have any good players, and so we were expected to be shambolic. Well, lo and behold, we're undefeated in the Challenge Cup, and we get to the final playing against Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah, the Red Stars. And they have a terrific forward line led by Rodman and Hatch and I'm forgetting the other one's name. But anyway, they have the front three is terrific. And lo and behold, Courage prevailed 2-1. I want to note in that game, the new Brazilian player for the Courage, Carolyn, gets a beautiful ball through, comes running in on goal, and the center back for Chicago comes 2-footed, goes right through her shin, Mikey Dobbs.
Yeah, I heard you.
And her whole leg buckled. I really thought her leg was broken. Referee,
No call.
play on.
No call.
0 call. It was
Yeah.
awful.
What?
I was busy at work when that text came through, so I haven't seen the highlight. I'm gonna have to watch it. We're gonna have to watch
It
it.
was the worst challenge I have ever seen. And actually that highlights, they don't ever show the reverse angle, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the Courage on the ensuing corner kick scored, so maybe there's a little karma in the world. But
Was it as bad as the Leeds tackle from the right back?
that was pretty bad. I think this might have been worse.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it was awful, straight through.
Because the Leeds tackle, and that's one of my favorite players for Leeds too. He's just a workhorse and a great player, but totally came in frustrated, reckless, and just studs up on that guy. And if things had gone a millimeter the wrong direction, that's somebody's broken leg there. So definitely the right call in that Leeds game to throw the red card. But they had to go to VAR to do it. So it just shows, like, same as the Courage game. Some of those calls are difficult for the ref to make. But when your studs up like that, I don't know that was that hard.
Well, they don't have VAR. And, equality people, right? How does the NWSL not have VAR?
Thank you.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if
it's the
if
same
we're
as-
going to have the same game, let's have the same rules and VAR.
Well, it's the same thing we were talking about during the World Cup qualifiers, like Costa Rica and El Salvador, whoever it is, that
The
can't.
excuse for that was that we were somewhere in these crazy stadiums that couldn't do the technology. I don't believe that either. But we're in America in the NWSL, right? I mean,
In the finals of a challenge
Yeah.
cup. I was like, girl.
I mean, how much does a GoPro cost? Is all I'm saying.
So, Mike Dobbs, Atlanta beat.
Oh,
It was
that's
the
right, the
Atlanta
Thank you.
beat.
Yes.
Okay, the beat goes on.
There it is.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I went to many beat games. We had some friends that work for them, and
Okay.
yeah, but they folded. I'm trying to remember. It's probably it's got to be like 10, 15 years ago now that the beat folded.
Yeah, it was about, I think it was like 2012, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Time flies, but it's time for another team to come back, I think.
I
Yeah,
agree.
so Courage are champions of the Challenge Cup, believe it or not. And yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, it was a good show. I thought the game was terrific. The Courage was terrific. Were terrific, and yeah, I'm glad to see is on CBS, national televised audience. It's really nice to see the women getting the recognition that they really deserve. Obviously, the U.S. women are terrific.
So speaking of broadcasting games,
Okay.
we are in the Open Cup, right? It's the Hunt Open Cup.
Yeah, Lamar Hunt. Do you know him?
It's on ESPN, I believe, tomorrow evening. I don't know what the start time is. Maybe Karma can help us with that.
Yep.
But we play up in Nashville tomorrow.
Right.
It is our second game in the Lamar Hunt Open Cup.
Right.
What do you think about that? I think the broadcast is national, so I don't think it's going to be blacked out. But if not, I got my VPN. I got to plug my computer in and do all that. Hopefully, the rest of
There's
Atlanta.
nothing that can stop Mikey
I
Dobbs.
thought I read something that Bally Sports was going to allow this to be broadcast without the blackout.
When
I
the
don't know.
police come for you, Mikey Dobbs, don't worry. I'll tell them you didn't do anything.
I know. I was like, I'm just coasting up. I'm just coasting up to the red light to wait for it to go green.
Timing the light, Mikey Dobbs. Yeah, so we're playing Nashville in their new stadium. Do you have a prediction?
I have a prediction that we are going to win 3-1.
I have a prediction we're going to lose 2-1. I mean, Nashville is quality. They're playing in the brand new stadium. Their fans are fired up. They're terrific defensively. You think that we're ready to go on the road and beat Nashville in Nashville?
Only because of this, Dave. We just haven't been playing well lately, and sometimes you gotta ride the wave a little bit, right? So like, what you're
I like the logic. We haven't been playing well lately, so we're going to go on the road and win.
Well, at some point the worm turns, or whatever the saying is.
Yep.
I got that wrong, but your logic is spot on, right?
Okay.
Like they're at home, they're going to be fired up. They're the better team in the table, right? So
it's pretty equal, but keep in mind, so they're in like 5th or 6th place in the West, but they've played all 9, 10 games or whatever they've played on the road because their stadium wasn't ready yet. So for them to be in 5th or 6th place, having played not a single home game, they just played their first home game on the weekend. No, they played 2 home games so far. They tied against Philadelphia, and they beat, I think, Kansas City. So they're undefeated at home, but on the road prior to that, they were basically 500, which is good in MLS.
I just feel like Atlanta, I feel like the locker room might be coming together. They do not have, who do they not have, Nashville? They do not have Araujo. They do not have Almada.
Yeah.
They do not have Moreno. They do not have the new Ronaldo.
Well, here's the other aspect of it. So I know, people were talking about, Nashville. Some people said, I heard some predictions on the interwebs that, they might rest a bunch of players. What do you think? If you are Pineda, do you go in with the top squad or not?
Yeah, you go in with your top squad.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, in MLS, there's not, a tremendous number of opportunities. We don't have the Caribou Cup, Mikey Dobbs, like they do in England. That's the, let's get one more chance to win a trophy.
And a good transition, right? We didn't make the CCL this year, right? And the first team, MLS ATL on Fire Trivia, was who to win the CONCACAF
Well,
Champions League.
that's in the new format because we have had MLS teams win the CONCACAF Champions League before. DC United won it years and years ago when it was in its old crazy
fake
thing.
news. That's fake
But
news.
in
Stop
the new
it.
format,
Stop it. Everyone recognizes. Stop it. Will you stop it? This is like. Do you want to talk about Dom Dwyer scoring?
Okay.
Because that was against Chattanooga.
No.
It doesn't count.
No, I don't. Okay, fair.
It doesn't count.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Stop talking.
Okay.
So Seattle won the first CONCACAF Champions League game.
Yes,
Dave.
they did.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's heating up. He's on fire.
Damn straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's super impressive, right? I mean, they go against Pumas from Mexico to beat them over 2 legs on a Wednesday night in Seattle. It was sold out, 67,000. I mean, what a show for MLS, right? Because people have marveled at the crowds at Mercedes-Benz, Atlanta United. Seattle was the reigning crowd king, until we came in, the new upstart, uppity kids and broke all their records. But again, on a Wednesday night for a U.S. Open Cup game, I mean, I'll tell you, I went to a MetroStars U.S. Open Cup game, which was played on Long Island.
Yeah.
You know how many people were there, Mikey Dobbs?
Not so many.
I would guess there might have been over 100.
Yeah.
There were 67,000 there.
Yeah. Do you know how many? I think it was something like 120,000 or something like that between Nashville, Charlotte, and Atlanta this weekend that showed up for games. That's just the Southeast. I mean, that's pretty wild.
I mean, it was when I went
showing
to
up for soccer, Dave.
yeah. When I went to see the MetroStars play in the U.S. Open Cup, Donadoni was playing for the team, which was amazing. The Italian midfielder, amazing guy. But if you had told me then that anybody ever would have 67,000 for a U.S. Open Cup game on a Wednesday night in any part of America, I would have said, you are freaking kidding yourself.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, soccer's going to turn here. It's wild. I find myself watching MLS games in the middle of the week too.
Yeah.
So I also feel like
Yeah.
the broadcasting is figuring it out because I'm kind of bored in the middle of the week and I'm clicking through and there's not much on and I'm like, all of a sudden I'll find myself watching an LAFC game or an LA Galaxy game or I watched part of the Montreal game the other day. I mean, it's
The quality of the soccer is getting much better. Yeah.
and I don't know about that, but I can't. It is, but it's slowly getting there. But man, after you've been watching EPL highlights and you go there, you're like, oh man. But at the same time, I am finding myself willing to tune in. So if I'm part of that group who are, I'm sure, the early adopters of tuning into a team that's not yours in the MLS, that hopefully that's going on in other markets where, somebody from the West Coast is watching an Atlanta United game because there's nothing else going on tomorrow night on Wednesday, and they might watch the Nashville Open Cup game on ESPN. That is a big deal for U.S. soccer.
Yeah, fair. I think it's a really big deal. I think it's a credit to the league. I mean, when it first started, people were like, oh, is it even going to survive a year or two? And here we are, a ton of teams later, new stadiums, the whole deal.
There's a really cool YouTube video out there, and maybe I'll link it on the Twitter. It kind of shows the timeline since 1996 when the league started, and it shows on a U.S. map all of the different teams that have entered MLS and the ones that have disappeared.
Yeah, all the Florida teams originally disappeared, right? There was Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and what was the third original Florida team? It wasn't Orlando, was it? Anyway, there were 3 teams originally in the MLS from Florida. They all folded. Yeah. And now they've come back. Now you have Orlando, Miami. We're finally back to 2, but we went from 3 to 0.
But the map was interesting because it clearly showed they did have at least a lot of thought put behind the geography, particularly in recent years with the expansion. And you can see it is going to potentially have some rivalry stuff.
I'm telling you, St. Louis is going to be big. I mean, the poor folks of St. Louis, right? They've lost football twice. Right. And they are it's a big soccer town and they're hankering for something. I think that St. Louis is going to be big.
Yeah.
And that's the next franchise.
So what else is happening in the world of football? Let's go.
Well, we didn't talk about my shirt.
Oh, so you're bringing up the new coach of
Man United
who just got whomped by
We got whomped with the old coach.
Yeah.
Thankfully. The soon-to-be departed coach. The now general manager, Ralph Rangnick.
He was only on the phone with Ralph, so.
No, we got Ten Hag, who is cruising to the Dutch champion with Ajax.
I love my Ajax. Yeah.
And you might be like, okay, well, why, Dave, do you have an Ajax jersey? Do you know I spent my formative years in Holland?
I did not
when I was
know this.
2 and 3 years old, my parents lived in just outside of Amsterdam for a year. So it's my team.
Yeah. And so, Dave, there's a saying in Holland, which I'm going to totally botch. Okay. I'm going to totally botch, so this is going to be jibber jabber for those of you speak Dutch, but my college roommate is Dutch.
Okay.
And we would probably stay up too late having
TJ
having wine like this, but it's Sachelsafent, something like that, which means if you're going to be a man at night, be a man in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you ever, decide to stay up too late drinking red wine,
that never happens, does it?
Get up early and face the day. I love that saying.
Here on the podcast, that never happens.
Yeah, no, never.
Okay, maybe it happens sometimes.
And then our top of the table EPL team, Man City, just adds more fuel to the fire by signing the hottest striker in all of European football, Erling Haaland, for only 75 million euros, the same as roughly Christian Pulisic.
Yeah, but that's a release clause, so that's not a straight transfer fee. So because he has a release clause in his contract, Erling Haaland, so anybody could have gotten him for that.
Yeah. Carmen, who's your EPL team? Do you have one?
Manchester United.
Okay. Yeah, just part of the...
You knew you liked her for a reason.
All right. Well, look, I never disliked Man United, and I kind of was fond of them in hindsight just because I grew up during the class of 92 watching them.
Yeah, me too.
And appreciating, kind of like Liverpool and Man City right now, it's hard not to appreciate
Great.
watching the best players in the world play, right? So
Those teams are spectacular.
they're so good. It's just like, and that's why I tune in. Like, I mean, that's why I like EPL. It's not because, I mean, I'm a Wolves fan because I like the underdogs, and they hosted us when we were in college team in 1999 or 96. And it was just, it's easy to pick an underdog, but man, you got to appreciate great players when they're just, when teams can pick things up by 1 second, it just makes everybody else look like they're in slow motion.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit over the years of some great teams, the original AC Milan teams, obviously the more recent Barcelona teams with Messi and Xavi and Iniesta in the midfield. And I have to say the Liverpool and Man City teams recently, it's now, 3 out of 5 years it's been actually it was going to be 3 out of 5 years, but Real Madrid spoiled the party with their amazing comeback. It was going to be 3 out of 5 years. It was 2 England teams in the Champions League final, which, to be honest, is not good for football. You never want to have 2 teams from the same league in the Champions League final. It's not really the same. So it's great Real Madrid gets through, but you got to figure Liverpool's going to win that final. And Liverpool and Man City have been spectacular teams over the last few years.
Yeah, now the only team that can spoil Man City's future here is Wolverhampton.
Yes, Wolverhampton.
Because they'd have to get a win almost to create any sort of hope for Liverpool. And you know who's going to do it? My Wolves.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
But that if they do it,
I'm calling it now on the podcast.
That'll be it, because with Erling Haaland, Pep Guardiola, and the team they have behind him, does anybody going to bet against Man City next year?
No.
No
way.
I mean, Erling Haaland has scored a goal a game since his debut in the Bundesliga at 18 years old. He scored a goal in the game in the Champions League at 18 years old. If you compare him to the early Cristiano Ronaldo stats, he's way ahead.
I mean, he's going to have so many chances from great players around him. They're gonna, hey, Erling, here you go.
Tap it in again.
And by the way, if they're paying too much attention to him, well, that's a real problem too. So it's just, I don't know what the rules are.
It's unfair.
Financial fair play. Like
Something. Can we think of something?
It's financially fair. It's just footballing unfair. Because as you said, they only got him for $75 million, so that's fine. That's chump change these days.
I know, but
which is crazy. And Manchester United blew it because
they were like, "Oh, let's go for Cristiano Ronaldo."
Cristiano Ronaldo was going to Man City, which would have done.
We
two
talked
things.
about that on the podcast
would have
2 years
slowed
ago.
them down, and B would have blocked Erling Haaland from going, and they blew it.
We were like, "Why not just get the kid now?"
Now, in fairness to Manchester United, they did it out of the glory of United, the blood, like a loyalty.
How do they look now?
Oh, it was a terrible decision. I mean, absolutely terrible decision. Okay.
And then, Paul Pogba's contract's coming to an end.
Right.
Where does that guy go? There's even talks of him going to Man City.
Yeah, but he has said more recently that he wants to leave England again, but we'll see.
But
God forbid he goes there, because he's been a travesty at Man United, and under Pep Guardiola, he's just going to be amazing again.
Exactly. I think that's why he's going to do it. He's going to spite. He's going to be the first Man United.
If I were him, I would do it.
Why wouldn't you do it? Because he's going to. Yeah, he's a player that gets a lot of stick because they're like, oh, he's not working hard enough or whatever. But when you watch him play in France, he's not the player that's going to work hard enough. He works between this space and this space in a very relaxed, talented way. Magic, right? You're not, if you're expecting him to be a Mo Salah chasing the ball down and creating pressure, that's not the type of player that he is.
No, Paul Pogba with players running around him is danger because he's so physical on the ball. He can't be dispossessed, and that really changes things. So
So who's your prediction for the Champions League winner? Real or Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Okay, you said that earlier, but
and I think because Liverpool wins, They don't win the league title. Manchester City wins the title. I think they're very equal teams, and neither team was going to win both. So as soon as one won the other one was going to focus on the league a little bit more and win.
FA Cup winner.
I could see Liverpool winning that too.
Who is it? Who are they playing against? I can't remember all of a sudden. It's another top team, right?
Yeah. I want to say, is it? I don't know.
I'm
Is
blanking.
it Chelsea that got through? I'm not sure.
I think it might be Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
it is Chelsea. So I think Chelsea's going to win that game. That's going to be my prediction.
No way. Tuchel's done his usual thing where he boosted everything and then he over-tinkered and he got the tactics little bit overthought a la Pineda right now, and the team is flattened. I mean, they've just totally flattened.
Yeah, well, the Wolves came back.
Kevin.
The Wolves came back to time this last weekend after a two goal lead.
Wolves a good side. It's a really good side.
Yeah, but
I don't need to tell you that. But.
Lukaku and
So I have one more question.
yep.
So last week, 2 weeks ago, you were pretty down on Atlanta United. You said time to throw in the towel, at least not in terms of like the season being, totally a waste, but that we were not going to contend. They go out, they win 4-1. They have a little more promise. Are you still feeling that way? What is the season outlook for you?
Well, first off, I say it would be a travesty if we didn't make the playoffs. I said that in the last podcast.
Sure.
Making the playoffs, too talented not to, even with Miles out. Like, look at the depth that we have. Like, Ronald Hernandez, Alex Dijon, serviceable, George Campbell. Like, we've got options back there. As terrible that as an injury that is and blow to the team, we're still okay. And we still have a lot of players that are starting to click, like Ibarra, Sosa, Hyman's coming back. We got Araujo's just getting back in form. And who's this guy up front? What's his name? Ronaldo? Is that an anomaly? We'll find out. And, we don't have any more Jake Mulroney. He got traded to Orlando, which means, who we're going to see more of, which I love, which is Caleb Wiley.
Caleb Wiley, yeah.
Didn't get that injured.
He got hurt, though.
Didn't get injured that bad.
The ankle's not too bad, yeah.
He just got a knock in the ankle. He's 20 years old. He'll be fine. He's fine. He'll be back.
So, it's interesting. We talked in the last podcast about Sosa and his lower body knock, right? Early in the game, Ibarra went down right after Robinson, right? And he was down for a while. And the speed with which Sosa ran up to the side to go in the game says to me he could have been in the starting lineup, people.
Yeah.
I mean, he was ready to go in at 20th minute or whatever it was. Like, come on, put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. I'm like,
But look, if you're a substitute in today's generation of soccer, you are ready to go.
yeah, but not if you're Sosa, because you have a guaranteed spot. If if you say, look, if you're a guy who's pushing for a spot, then sure. But if you're a guy who's going to be a starter no matter when you're ready, and you've been injured, then you're like, look, no, coach, because I'm still coming back and I want to stick to my plan. I want my 30 minutes, whatever it is.
No player's ever said that. That's not true. A player's like, put me in, start me, not give me my 30 minutes. That's ridiculous talk, Dave. No player has ever said that. What? Hello?
Fair. It's fair.
Okay, thank you. No. They are on the bench because
I stand corrected. I'm sorry again. That's twice.
It was a good try. But, nope. Every player wants to play all the minutes of every game because if they don't, then they shouldn't even be on the bench.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course he's pumped, and I love the fact that Ibarra is now given a little competition.
Sure.
Not that there's not room for both of them.
And they haven't updated Joseph Martinez.
No, and that is further worry.
Classic Atlanta United, which means he's probably starting the next game.
No, there was a note by Doug Roberson that said that he is training and things are going well. So, for a reporter to at least get a positive quote says, at least things are progressing the right direction.
Okay.
Take that for what it's worth, Dave.
We'll take that. That's the theme of tonight's podcast.
Well,
things are progressing
you're
in
the
the
one
right
who's
direction.
You're the one Optimist. Whoa.
Whoa.
A little microphone troubles there.
Yeah.
You're the one who's an optimist about Joseph coming back. I'm still in the grand schemes a little skeptical. We'll see though. Hopefully he will make it back on the field here in May. What are the odds we're going to see him in May?
Based on the silence, he's starting the next game. All right. Before we go, one more time, we will be tweeting when we're recording the podcast. If you want to call in and be on the podcast, look for the tweets. The number is 470-387-1982, 1982. That phone number will only be in play while we're recording the podcast, but you too can be on the show.
And please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, ring the bell, tell a friend, and follow us on Twitter at ATL On Fire. And we appreciate everybody listening. Next time, maybe we should also think about doing like a live YouTube thing. I don't know.
I like it.
Carmen, we're going to put you to the pressure. You ready for that?
Always.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Take care.